Physical boundaries protect your body and personal space. You have the right to decide who touches you, when, and how. You can decline hugs, handshakes, or any physical contact that feels uncomfortable. Your body belongs to you, and honoring its signals teaches your inner child that their safety matters. What if the key to transforming your adult life lies in healing a wounded child you carry within you? What if every self-sabotaging pattern, every fear that holds you back, and every relationship struggle stems from unresolved childhood experiences that continue to run your life in the shadows? Picture Sarah, a successful marketing executive who can't understand why she freezes up during presentations despite her expertise. Or consider Michael, who sabotages every promising relationship just when things get serious. Both are highly intelligent, accomplished adults, yet they're controlled by invisible forces from their past. The truth is, we all carry within us the emotional imprints of our childhood experiences. These aren't just memories. They're living, breathing parts of our psyche that actively influence our decisions, relationships, and sense of self-worth. Modern neuroscience confirms what therapists have long observed. Our earliest experiences literally shape the neural pathways in our brains, creating patterns that persist well into adulthood. Inner child work isn't just therapy jargon or new age wishful thinking. It's a scientifically grounded approach that recognizes how our adult behaviors stem directly from childhood experiences. When we address these root causes, we don't just manage symptoms. We transform our entire reality from the ground up. Think of it this way. Most personal development approaches are like painting over rust. They might look good temporarily, but the underlying corrosion continues to spread. Inner child work is like treating the rust itself, creating lasting change that radiates outward into every area of your life. By the end of this journey, you'll have a complete roadmap for identifying your inner child wounds, practical tools for healing them, and strategies to reparent yourself into the person you were meant to become. This isn't about dwelling in the past. It's about freeing your future from the chains of unresolved childhood pain. You'll discover why you react the way you do in certain situations. Learn to recognize the difference between your adult wisdom and your wounded child's fears, and develop the skills to nurture yourself in ways you may never have experienced. Most importantly, you'll break free from patterns that have kept you stuck and step into the authentic power that comes from healing your deepest wounds. Chapter 1. Understanding your inner child, the foundation of change. Imagine walking through your childhood home as it exists today in your mind. What do you see? What do you feel? For many people, this mental journey reveals rooms locked tight, memories shrouded in darkness, and a small voice that's been waiting decades to be heard. Your inner child represents the pure, authentic essence of your childhood self. The part that experienced joy, innocence, curiosity, and vulnerability before life's complexities took their toll. This isn't about being childish or immature. Your inner child is the repository of your earliest emotional experiences, the part of you that learned fundamental lessons about safety, love, and worth. Understanding this concept requires us to recognize that we're not just our adult selves. We're layered beings carrying the experiences of every age we've ever been. The 5-year-old who felt abandoned when mom was too busy to listen is still there. The 8-year-old who was told they weren't smart enough still whispers doubts in your ear. The 12-year-old who learned that love came with conditions still influences your relationships. These childhood experiences don't just fade away. They become the lens through which we view the world. A child who grows up in chaos may become an adult who's constantly anxious, always waiting for the next crisis. A child who is criticized harshly may develop an inner critic so loud it drowns out their authentic voice. A child who learned that expressing emotions led to rejection may become an adult who struggles with intimacy. The wounded inner child operates from survival mode, using strategies that once protected you but now limit your potential. Perhaps you learned to be perfect to earn love, so now you're paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes. Maybe you discovered that being invisible kept you safe, so now you struggle to speak up for yourself. These patterns made sense when you were small and powerless, but they become prisons when you're an adult with choices. But here's the beautiful truth. Your inner child also holds your greatest gifts. This is where your creativity lies, your capacity for wonder, your ability to love freely and trust deeply. When healed, your inner child becomes a source of vitality, authenticity, and joy that can transform your entire experience of life. The difference between a wounded and healed inner child is profound. A wounded inner child operates from fear, constantly scanning for danger, expecting abandonment or rejection. A healed inner child feels secure in their worth, free to express themselves authentically, and confident in their ability to navigate challenges. Traditional self-help often fails because it tries to change behaviors without addressing their emotional roots. It's like trying to stop a weed by cutting off the visible parts while leaving the root system intact. The behaviors return because the underlying emotional patterns remain unchanged. Inner child work succeeds where other approaches fail because it goes to the source. When you heal the wounded parts of yourself, the self-sabotaging behaviors naturally fall away. You don't have to force yourself to change. The change happens organically as you address the real causes of your struggles. Chapter 2. Recognizing your inner child wounds. Have you ever had a reaction so intense it surprised even you? Maybe someone made an innocent comment that sent you into a rage, or perhaps you felt inexplicably sad after watching a movie. These moments often signal that your inner child has been activated. Your triggers, emotional reactions, and recurring life patterns are breadcrumbs leading back to unhealed childhood wounds. Learning to identify these connections is crucial for healing because you can't heal what you can't see. Inner child wounds typically fall into several categories, each creating distinct patterns in adult life. Abandonment wounds often manifest as people-pleasing, where you sacrifice your own needs to keep others from leaving. You might find yourself staying in unhealthy relationships because being alone feels worse than being mistreated. Rejection wounds create a different pattern. If you experienced repeated criticism or felt like you never measured up, you might develop perfectionism as armor. You push yourself relentlessly, believing that if you're just good enough, smart enough, or successful enough, you'll finally be worthy of love. Betrayal wounds, often stemming from broken promises or trust violations, can make it difficult to rely on others. You might find yourself constantly testing people's loyalty or keeping emotional walls up to protect yourself from future disappointment. Shame wounds run the deepest, convincing you that there's something fundamentally wrong with who you are. These often develop when children are blamed for things beyond their control or when their natural expressions of self are met with disgust or rejection. These wounds don't just affect your emotions. They shape your entire life trajectory. Career choices, relationship patterns, even where you choose to live can all be influenced by unhealed childhood experiences. The woman who becomes a workaholic might be trying to prove her worth to a father who is never satisfied. The man who can't commit might be protecting himself from the pain he felt when his parents divorced. Your inner critic often carries the voice of childhood authority figures who weren't emotionally equipped to nurture your developing sense of self. Pay attention to the language this voice uses. Does it sound familiar? Can you remember hearing these same words or sentiments from parents, teachers, or other influential adults? Physical sensations also provide important clues about inner child activation. You might notice your shoulders tensing when you feel criticized, or perhaps your stomach churns when you sense disapproval. Your body remembers what your mind might have forgotten, holding the cellular memory of old hurts. Recognizing these patterns isn't about blame or dwelling in victimhood. It's about understanding the source of your struggles so you can address them effectively. When you see how your past experiences shaped your present challenges, you can begin to respond from awareness rather than react from old wounds. The goal isn't to eliminate all emotional reactions. Emotions are valuable messengers. Instead, You want to develop the ability to distinguish between appropriate responses to current situations and disproportionate reactions triggered by old wounds. This awareness creates space for choice, allowing you to respond from your adult wisdom rather than your wounded child's fears. Chapter 3. Making First Contact, Connecting with Your Inner Child. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine stepping into a room where your childhood self is waiting. What age do they appear to be? What are they wearing? What expression do you see on their face? This simple visualization often reveals more about your inner emotional landscape than years of analysis. Establishing a relationship with your inner child requires creating safety, trust, and compassion. Often for the first time, many people discover that their inner child is hiding, angry, or suspicious, and these reactions make perfect sense. If your childhood was marked by criticism, neglect, or trauma, why would this part of you trust easily? The key to making first contact is approaching your inner child with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. Imagine how you'd interact with a frightened animal. You'd move slowly, speak softly, and let them come to you rather than forcing contact. Your inner child deserves the same respectful approach. Start with simple visualization exercises. Picture yourself at different ages, beginning with times when you felt relatively safe or happy. What did you love to do? What made you laugh? What were your dreams and fears? Allow these memories to surface without trying to fix or change anything. You're simply saying hello to parts of yourself you may have forgotten. Childhood photos can serve as powerful connection tools. Look at pictures of yourself at various ages and really see the child looking back at you. What do you notice in their eyes? What do you want to say to them? Many people are surprised by the tenderness they feel toward their younger selves when they really look. If you don't have photos, or if looking at them feels too intense, try writing with your non-dominant hand. This simple technique often bypasses your analytical mind and connects you more directly to younger parts of yourself. Ask your inner child questions and let them respond through your non-dominant hand. You might be amazed by what emerges. Creating internal safety is crucial because your inner child may have learned that expressing vulnerability led to hurt. Establish yourself as a protective presence, assuring your inner child that you're here to listen, not to judge or minimize their experiences. You might visualize wrapping them in a warm blanket or creating a safe space where they can express themselves freely. Some people find it helpful to establish regular check-ins with their inner child, perhaps through journaling or meditation. Ask what they need today, how they're feeling, what would help them feel safer or more loved. Listen without immediately trying to problem solve. Sometimes your inner child just needs to be heard. Remember that this process takes time. Your inner child may test you, acting out or withdrawing to see if you'll abandon them like others might have. Consistency and patience are key. Show up regularly, even when it's difficult, proving through your actions that this relationship is different from past experiences. If emotions arise during these connections, sadness, anger, fear, welcome them as valuable information. Your inner child may need to express feelings that were suppressed for years. Create space for these emotions without judgment, offering comfort the way you would to any hurting child. The goal isn't to become childish, but to integrate this part of yourself in a healthy way. You're establishing a relationship where your adult self can provide the safety, love, and guidance your inner child needed but may not have received. Chapter 4. The Art of Reparenting Yourself. Think about the parent you needed as a child versus the parent you actually had. Maybe you needed more patience, more celebration of your achievements, more comfort during difficult times, or simply more presence and attention. Reparenting means becoming that ideal parent to yourself now, meeting the needs that went unmet then. This isn't about criticizing your actual parents, who likely did their best with their own wounds and limitations. Reparenting is about taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being and breaking cycles that may have persisted for generations. The first step is identifying what your inner child needed but didn't receive. Did you need more physical affection? More encouragement? Better boundaries and protection? More validation of your emotions? More freedom to express yourself? Different families struggle with different things, and understanding your specific unmet needs guides your reparenting efforts. Practical reparenting begins with developing your internal nurturing voice. This might feel awkward at first, especially if you're more familiar with self-criticism and self-compassion. Start small. When you make a mistake, instead of berating yourself, try responding the way you'd comfort a friend. That's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. What can we learn from this? Self-soothing becomes crucial when your inner child feels activated or distressed. Maybe you create a comfort kit with soft blankets, soothing music, or items that bring you peace. Perhaps you develop rituals for difficult days, making yourself tea, taking a warm bath, or going for a gentle walk. These aren't indulgences, they're emotional necessities. Setting boundaries is another essential reparenting skill. If your childhood lacked appropriate limits, you might struggle with saying no as an adult. Practice protecting your inner child by honoring your needs and limits. When someone asks too much of you, imagine your younger self standing beside you. Would you allow someone to treat that child the way you're being treated? Celebrating achievements, no matter how small, helps heal the inner child who may have had their accomplishments minimized or ignored. Did you have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding? Celebrate that courage. Did you choose self-care over people-pleasing? Acknowledge that growth. Your inner child deserves recognition for every step forward. Learn to respond to your inner child's fears with adult wisdom and compassion. When that familiar anxiety arises, instead of dismissing it or being overtaken by it, acknowledge it with understanding. I know you're scared because this reminds you of when we felt unsafe before. But we're adults now with more resources and choices. I'm here to protect you. Breaking the cycle of criticism requires vigilance because negative self-talk often runs so deep it feels normal. Notice when your inner critic speaks and ask whose voice it really is. Then consciously choose to respond differently. If your inner child made a mistake, would you berate them or help them learn? Extend that same kindness to yourself. Reparenting also means giving yourself permission for things you may have been denied. Permission to rest when you're tired, to say no when overwhelmed, to ask for help when needed, to express your emotions, to take up space, to have preferences and opinions. These aren't selfish acts, they're acts of self-love. Sometimes reparenting involves grieving what you didn't receive. This grief is necessary and healing. You're not grieving to stay stuck in victimhood, but to release the pain so you can move forward with greater wholeness. The beautiful thing about reparenting is that it's never too late to give yourself what you needed. Your inner child is still there, still capable of healing, still deserving of love. Every act of self-compassion, every boundary you set, every time you choose self-care over self-criticism, you're actively healing old wounds and creating new patterns. Chapter 5. Rewriting your inner story. Listen carefully to how you speak about yourself. Do you hear phrases like, "I'm not good enough," "I don't deserve success," or "I can't trust anyone"? These aren't facts about you. They're stories written by a child trying to make sense of their experiences, often under very difficult circumstances. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we deserve were written in childhood, when we had limited perspective and even more limited power. A child whose parents were consistently critical might conclude, "I'm not lovable." A child who experienced abandonment might decide, "People always leave me." A child who is overwhelmed by adult responsibilities might believe, "It's all my fault." These childhood conclusions made sense given the limited information available, but they often become limiting beliefs that constrain your adult life. The brilliant news is that you're no longer that powerless child. You can examine these old stories with adult wisdom and choose to write new ones. Start by identifying the limiting beliefs that feel most true to you. Write them down exactly as they appear in your mind. Notice how absolute they tend to be: always, never, all. Then investigate their origins. When did you first learn this about yourself? What experiences reinforced this belief? Often, you'll discover that these beliefs were survival strategies. If you learned that you couldn't trust people, it might have protected you from further hurt. If you decided you weren't smart enough, It might have helped you avoid the pain of trying and failing. Thank these beliefs for trying to protect you. Then examine whether they still serve you. Creating new, empowering stories requires both compassion and evidence. You can't simply affirm your way out of deep-seated beliefs, but you can begin to notice evidence that contradicts your old stories. If you believe you're not capable, make a list of things you've accomplished. If you think people always leave, remember those who've stayed. The power of speaking to your inner child with compassion and truth cannot be overstated. When that old story arises, "I'm not good enough," pause and respond with love. "Sweet child, you are inherently worthy just by being here. You don't need to earn love by being perfect. You are enough exactly as you are." This process requires patience because these neural pathways have been reinforced for years or decades. Be gentle with yourself when old patterns resurface. Each time you catch an old story and choose a new response, you're literally rewiring your brain. The new pathways will strengthen with practice while the old ones gradually weaken. Sometimes rewriting your story means forgiving the child who made those early decisions. They were doing their best to survive and make sense of a confusing world. Honor their resilience while updating their conclusions with your adult understanding. Your new story should be both empowering and realistic. Instead of "I'm perfect," try "I'm learning and growing." Rather than "everyone will love me," perhaps I deserve love and will find my people." These balanced stories acknowledge your humanity while affirming your worth. As these new stories take root, you'll notice shifts in how you approach challenges, relationships, and opportunities. You'll take healthy risks because you no longer believe you're fundamentally flawed. You'll set boundaries because you know you deserve respect. You'll pursue your dreams because you finally believe you're worthy of happiness. The story of your life is still being written, and you hold the pen. Every day offers new opportunities to author chapters filled with self-compassion, courage, and authentic self-expression. Your inner child deserves a story worthy of their inherent beauty and potential. Chapter 6. Healing Emotional Wounds Through Expression. Have you ever noticed how a good cry can leave you feeling strangely lighter? Or how punching a pillow during a moment of rage somehow releases tension you didn't even know you were carrying? There's profound wisdom in these instinctive responses. Your body knows what your mind often resists, that emotions need movement, not just understanding. Suppressed childhood emotions don't disappear into some psychological void. They live in your nervous system, influencing everything from your sleep patterns to your relationship choices. That anger you swallowed when you were criticized unfairly, it's still there, perhaps showing up as passive-aggressive behavior or chronic tension in your jaw. The grief you couldn't express when someone left, it might be why you keep people at arm's length now. Your inner child carries a backlog of feelings that were too overwhelming or too dangerous to express at the time. Maybe your household couldn't handle big emotions, or perhaps you learned that crying made things worse. Whatever the reason, these unexpressed feelings become emotional debt that compounds over time, affecting your adult relationships and self-perception. The key to healing isn't thinking your way through these emotions. It's feeling them fully and expressing them safely. This doesn't mean having emotional outbursts in inappropriate settings. Instead, it means creating sacred space where your inner child can finally release what they've been holding. Start with anger, often the easiest emotion to access because it sits closest to the surface. Find a private space where you won't be interrupted. You might write an uncensored letter to someone who hurt you, knowing you'll never send it. Pour everything onto paper, the unfairness, the betrayal, the way it felt to be small and powerless. Don't edit yourself. Let the words flow with all their messy intensity. Physical expression can be equally powerful. Try hitting pillows, screaming into your car while driving, or doing intense exercise while imagining you're releasing old pain. Your body holds emotional memory, and movement helps discharge what's been stuck. Grief requires gentler approaches. Create a ritual around what you lost, the childhood you didn't have, the protection you needed, the love you deserved. Light a candle, look at old photos, or simply sit quietly and let the sadness move through you. Tears aren't weakness, they're emotional detoxification. Creative expression offers another pathway for release. Paint your feelings using colors that represent different emotions. Write poetry from your inner child's perspective. Dance to music that captures your mood. These activities bypass your analytical mind and connect directly to your emotional truth. Fear often needs the most gentle handling. Acknowledge what your inner child was afraid of. Abandonment, criticism, being too much or not enough. Speak to these fears with compassion. Of course you were scared. Anyone would have been in that situation. The goal isn't to eliminate these emotions, but to complete their expression. When feelings move through you rather than getting stuck inside you, they transform from psychological burdens into sources of wisdom and strength. You begin to trust your emotional responses because you're no longer carrying the distorted weight of unexpressed childhood pain. As these emotions find healthy expression, you'll notice your relationship with yourself beginning to transform. The inner critic grows quieter when old anger finds its voice. Anxiety decreases when long-held grief is finally acknowledged. You start to feel more present in your life because you're no longer using so much energy to suppress what wants to be felt. Chapter 7. Developing Self-Compassion and Self-Love. Quick question. How do you talk to yourself when you make a mistake? If a friend spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you keep that friendship? For most people struggling with inner child wounds, the answer reveals the depth of their self-criticism. Many people struggle with self-love because their inner child never experienced unconditional acceptance. If love always came with conditions, be good, be quiet, be perfect, then your nervous system learned that you're only worthy of care when you meet certain standards. This conditional love becomes the template for how you treat yourself as an adult. Self-compassion differs fundamentally from self-esteem. Self-esteem depends on achievement, comparison, and external validation. It says, I'm good because I succeeded, or I'm worthy because I'm better than others. Self-compassion says, I'm human, I'm struggling, and I deserve kindness regardless of my performance. Developing a loving inner voice begins with awareness of your current self-talk. For one day, notice how you speak to yourself. What tone do you use? What words come up repeatedly? Many people are shocked to discover they wouldn't speak to their worst enemy the way they routinely speak to themselves. Start replacing criticism with curiosity. Instead of, I'm so stupid for making that mistake, try, I wonder what I can learn from this experience. Replace, I never do anything right, with I'm human and still learning. These shifts feel awkward initially because your brain is used to the familiar patterns of self-attack. Practice speaking to yourself the way you would comfort a beloved child. If your inner child made the same mistake you did, what would you say to them? You'd probably offer reassurance, perspective, and gentle guidance. You deserve that same tenderness from yourself. Physical self-care becomes an act of love when done with intention. Taking a warm bath isn't just hygiene. It's saying you matter and deserve comfort. Eating nourishing food becomes, I care about your well-being. Getting enough sleep transforms into you deserve rest and restoration. Create daily rituals that honor your inner child's need for love and attention. This might be morning affirmations, evening gratitude practices, or simply checking in with yourself throughout the day. How are you feeling right now? What do you need? Overcoming guilt about self-love often requires examining the messages you received about worthiness. Many people learned that focusing on themselves was selfish, that they should always put others first. Recognize that you can't give what you don't have. When you love yourself well, you have more genuine love to offer others. Resistance to self-love usually stems from fear. What if you become lazy or complacent? What if you stop striving? The opposite typically happens. When you feel genuinely loved and accepted by yourself, you take healthier risks because your worth isn't dependent on outcomes. You pursue goals from desire rather than desperate need for validation. Self-forgiveness becomes possible when you understand that you did the best you could with the resources and awareness you had at the time. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it recognizes your humanity. Your inner child deserves forgiveness for their survival strategies, even when those strategies hurt others or yourself. Start small with self-love practices. Place your hand on your heart when you're stressed and say, "This is difficult right now, and I'm here for you." Write yourself kind notes and leave them where you'll find them later. Celebrate small wins the way you'd celebrate a friend's accomplishments. With self-compassion as your foundation, you can begin establishing healthier boundaries in all areas of life. When you truly love yourself, protecting your energy and well-being becomes natural rather than selfish. Chapter 8. Setting boundaries from a healed place. Imagine a beautiful garden with no fence around it. Anyone can trample through, picking flowers, letting their animals graze, or dumping their trash. The garden suffers not because it's bad, but because it's unprotected. Your inner child is that garden, and boundaries are the loving fence that keeps it safe to flourish. Healthy boundaries aren't walls built from fear. They're loving protections that honor both your needs and others. When you set boundaries from a healed place, you're not trying to control other people's behavior. You're simply defining what you will and won't accept in your own life. Many boundary violations begin in childhood when adults don't respect a child's natural limits. Perhaps your privacy wasn't honored, your no was ignored, or you were forced to hug relatives who made you uncomfortable. These experiences teach children that their boundaries don't matter, creating adults who struggle to recognize and maintain healthy limits. Understanding the difference between boundaries and walls helps clarify what healthy protection looks like. Walls shut everyone out indiscriminately, built from a place of hurt and defensive fear. They say no one can be trusted. Boundaries are selective and thoughtful, allowing good things in while keeping harmful things out. They say, "I choose who and what I allow into my space." Start by identifying where your boundaries have been crossed. Notice situations that leave you feeling drained, resentful, or taken advantage of. These feelings often signal that someone has overstepped your limits, possibly because you haven't clearly defined or communicated them. Physical boundaries protect your body and personal space. You have the right to decide who touches you, when, and how. You can decline hugs, handshakes, or any physical contact that feels uncomfortable. Your body belongs to you, and honoring its signals teaches your inner child that their safety matters. Emotional boundaries protect your mental and emotional well-being. You're not responsible for managing other people's emotions or fixing their problems. You can listen with compassion without absorbing their stress. You can care about someone without sacrificing your own emotional stability for their comfort. Time boundaries honor your energy and commitments. You can say no to social events when you need rest. You can limit how long you spend with draining people. You can prioritize your own goals without feeling guilty for not being constantly available to others. Communication boundaries protect your right to respectful interaction. You don't have to tolerate yelling, name-calling, or manipulative behavior. You can end conversations that become abusive or walk away from situations that feel toxic. Your inner child deserves to feel safe in all interactions. Setting new boundaries often triggers guilt because you're changing established patterns. Family members or friends might react negatively when you stop overgiving or start protecting your energy. Remember that their discomfort doesn't mean you're wrong. It often means the boundary is necessary. Practice boundary setting in low-stakes situations first. Tell the chatty cashier you're in a hurry instead of listening to their life story. Say no to small requests you don't want to fulfill. These practice rounds build your boundary-setting muscles for more challenging situations. Use clear, kind language when communicating boundaries. "I'm not available to discuss that topic" is more effective than long explanations or justifications. "I need to leave by 8" is clearer than hinting you're tired. Direct communication reduces confusion and manipulation. Expect boundary testing, especially from people who benefited from your previous lack of limits. They might push back, guilt-trip you, or try to argue you out of your boundaries. Stay firm while remaining compassionate. Your consistency teaches others how to treat you. As your boundaries strengthen, you'll find yourself naturally gravitating toward healthier relationships and opportunities. People who respect your limits become closer friends, while those who can't accept your boundaries gradually fade from your inner circle. Chapter 9. Breaking Generational Patterns. Look at any family photo spanning multiple generations, and you're looking at layers of inherited patterns. Some beautiful traditions worth preserving, others painful cycles that have been passed down like unwanted heirlooms. The remarkable truth about inner child healing is that when you heal yourself, you don't just transform your own life. You become the ancestor who breaks the chain. Inner child healing doesn't just transform your life. It breaks cycles of dysfunction that may have persisted for generations. Trauma has a way of traveling through family lines, not through genes, but through learned behaviors, unprocessed emotions, and unexamined beliefs about how life works. Consider how patterns repeat across generations. The grandfather who couldn't express emotions raises a father who struggles with intimacy, who then raises children who have difficulty trusting others. The grandmother who sacrificed everything for others teaches a mother to ignore her own needs, who then raises daughters who struggle with self-worth. These aren't conscious choices. They're inherited survival strategies passed down through modeling and conditioning. Recognizing inherited trauma begins with looking honestly at your family's emotional landscape. What topics were never discussed? How did family members handle conflict, stress, or disappointment? What messages did you receive about money, relationships, success, or self-worth? Often, the patterns that frustrate you most in yourself can be traced back through previous generations. Some inherited patterns are obvious: addiction, abuse, or abandonment that clearly cycles through family members. Others are subtler: perfectionism, emotional unavailability, or the tendency to sacrifice personal needs for others' comfort. These quieter patterns can be equally damaging, creating generations of people who struggle with similar issues without understanding why. Breaking generational patterns requires both awareness and conscious choice. First, you must recognize the pattern. Then, you must develop different skills and responses. Finally, you must practice these new ways of being consistently, even when old patterns feel more familiar and comfortable. Your healing impacts family relationships in unexpected ways. As you become healthier, some family members may feel threatened or confused by your changes. They might pressure you to return to old dynamics or make you feel guilty for growing beyond family limitations. This resistance often indicates that your healing is working, disrupting systems that depended on dysfunction. Some family members will celebrate your growth and be inspired to do their own healing work. Others may feel challenged or criticized by your changes, even when you never directly address their behavior. Remember that you're not responsible for how others respond to your healing. Your job is to continue growing, not to manage everyone else's comfort with your transformation. Creating new traditions becomes an act of revolutionary love. Maybe your family never celebrated individual achievements, so you create rituals around honoring personal growth. Perhaps emotional expression was discouraged, so you teach your children that all feelings are welcome and valid. These new traditions plant seeds for healthier future generations. The ripple effect of your healing extends far beyond your immediate family. Your children learn different ways of handling stress, conflict, and self-care. Your friends witness what healthy boundaries look like. Your colleagues see someone who values themselves appropriately. Your example gives others permission to break their own generational patterns. Document your healing journey for future generations. Write letters to children you may have, or leave a record of the work you've done to transform inherited patterns. Future family members will thank you for the cycles you chose to break and the new possibilities you created through your courage to heal. Remember that breaking generational patterns doesn't mean cutting off all connection to your heritage. You can honor your ancestors' strengths while choosing not to continue their wounds. You can appreciate their sacrifices while creating different choices for yourself and future generations. With these patterns broken, you're ready to step fully into your authentic, empowered adult self. One who honors the past, while creating a healthier future. Chapter 10. Integrating your healed inner child. Picture an orchestra where the musicians have been playing completely different songs for years. The conductor finally steps onto the podium, and for the first time, all the instruments begin to harmonize. This is what integration feels like. When your wounded inner child, your protective ego, and your wise adult self finally learn to work together as one unified being. The goal isn't to fix or eliminate your inner child, but to integrate this part of yourself in a healthy way. Your inner child isn't a problem to be solved, but a vital aspect of your psyche that brings creativity, spontaneity, and authentic feeling to your adult life. Integration means creating partnership between your inner child's wisdom and your adult capabilities. Maintaining connection with your healed inner child requires intentional practice. Schedule regular check-ins, asking what they need, how they're feeling, and what would bring them joy. These conversations keep you connected to your authentic desires beneath the layers of adult responsibilities and social conditioning. Create space for play in your adult life. This doesn't mean being irresponsible or childish. It means honoring your inner child's need for fun, creativity, and exploration. Maybe you take an art class without caring about the outcome, dance in your living room, or spend an afternoon at the beach building sandcastles. These activities aren't frivolous. They're essential nourishment for your soul. Balancing adult responsibilities with childlike wonder becomes an art form. You can be reliable and professional while still approaching life with curiosity and openness. You can meet your obligations while leaving room for spontaneity and joy. The key is remembering that being an adult doesn't require killing your inner child's spirit. Use your inner child's wisdom to guide major life decisions. Children have an uncanny ability to sense what feels right or wrong, safe or dangerous, authentic or false. When facing important choices, consider what would make your inner child feel most alive and authentic. Their perspective often cuts through mental complexity to reveal your true desires. Your inner child's emotional responses provide valuable information about people and situations. If someone makes your inner child feel unsafe, pay attention to that signal. If an opportunity excites your inner child's sense of adventure, consider whether it aligns with your authentic path. These feelings aren't childish. They're sophisticated warning and guidance systems. Protect your inner child's sensitivities while living in an adult world. You might need headphones in noisy environments, breaks from overwhelming social situations, or time in nature to recharge. These aren't weaknesses. They're self-care practices that honor your authentic needs. Express your inner child's creativity without judgment or pressure to produce something valuable. Write poems no one will read, paint pictures you'll never show, sing songs you'll never perform. Creativity, for its own sake, feeds your soul and keeps you connected to your most authentic expression. Let your inner child influence your relationships. Their capacity for wonder, trust, and unconditional love can deepen your connections with others. At the same time, their sensitivity to authenticity helps you recognize which relationships truly serve your highest good. Create a life that honors both your practical needs and your soul's desires. Maybe you choose work that pays the bills while making time for creative pursuits that feed your spirit. Perhaps you live in a practical location while decorating your space in ways that delight your inner child. Integration means finding ways to meet adult requirements without sacrificing what makes you feel most alive. Teach others about the inner child concept by modeling healthy integration. When people see you balancing responsibility with playfulness, authenticity with appropriateness, they receive permission to explore their own inner child healing. Your integration becomes a gift to everyone around you. As we conclude this journey, let's reflect on how far you've come and where you're headed. You began this process carrying wounds that felt overwhelming and patterns that seemed impossible to break. You've learned to recognize these patterns, connect with your inner child, reparent yourself with love, and create new stories about your worth and potential. Your inner child holds both your deepest wounds and your greatest gifts. The same sensitivity that made you vulnerable to hurt also gives you the capacity for profound empathy and creativity. The same openness that left you susceptible to others' dysfunction also enables you to love deeply and trust authentically when it's safe to do so. Healing happens through connection, compassion, and consistent reparenting. Every time you choose self-love over self-criticism, every boundary you set from a place of worth rather than fear, every moment you speak to your inner child with tenderness, these acts of love accumulate into profound transformation. This work is ongoing but transforms every aspect of your life. You don't graduate from inner child healing and never need to practice these skills again. Like physical fitness, emotional wellness requires consistent attention and care. But the investment pays dividends in every relationship, every decision, and every moment of your life. You have the power to break cycles and create the life you truly desire. The patterns that once felt impossible to change become malleable when you address their roots. The relationships that once drained you either improve or naturally fall away as you establish healthier standards. The dreams you abandoned in childhood become possible again when you heal the wounds that convinced you they were unrealistic. Start small. Spend 5 minutes today connecting with your inner child through visualization or looking at childhood photos. Ask what they need to hear from you today and provide it with the love of the parent you needed then. These small acts of connection and care create the foundation for lasting transformation. Remember, this work isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every moment of compassion you show your inner child is a victory. Every boundary you set is an act of love. Every old story you rewrite is a gift to your future self. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing generations and creating new possibilities for everyone whose life you touch. Thank you for joining me on this transformative journey of inner child healing. If this audiobook has resonated with you, please subscribe to Audiobooks Library for more content on personal growth and healing. Until then, be gentle with yourself and trust the process. Your healing matters, and you deserve the love you're learning to give yourself.